All right, welcome back. Let's shift conversations right about now as we begin to look at concerns around education with greater focus on technical form of education, analyzing the prospects and challenges. At the beginning of the show today, I did say some things which I would like to repeat again. Nigeria has suffered a lot from the dearth of technical workers, likes of plumbers, tilers, and then yes, these are concerns that lack of technical manpower had thrown out to us as a people, which has made it imperative that we have this conversation around technical education, how we can tweak this whole downturn, how we could revive technical education, how we could encourage manpower within that space. And to go through this with us in our Abuja studios, Professor Idris Bugaje is Executive Secretary, National Board for Technical Education. Prof, I'm excited having you come join us this morning on the show. Very good morning to you, Prof.
Thank you very much, moderator. Good morning to all of you.
Morning. Sincerely, Prof, what has this dearth, I mean, I call it dearth in technical manpower within the Nigerian space, how much of a challenge would you say this has thrown out to you in your line of work?
Well, there are a lot of skill gaps within the Nigerian economy. It's a big challenge, and it is a problem that had lingered for decades without being addressed. If you look at the infrastructural projects of this government, outgoing government, the AKK gas pipeline, the private Lekki refinery, and several others, the Mambila project, all these projects are being delivered with imported skilled labor largely. Lekki refinery has imported thousands of technicians and skilled workers, welders, pipe fitters, etc. Something which we should have planned to produce locally. Secondly, if you look at the other infrastructural projects, if you go to construction sites right here in Abuja, the best tilers, POPs, finishers, etc. are from French West Africa. So for how long would we continue with this kind of attitude? I mean, we must change and refocus technical and vocational education to produce the relevant manpower needed by the economy itself, rather than churning out diploma holders, degree holders without skills. This is the fight we have been, this is the battle we have been running for the past 2 years, and we have now refocused the National Board for Technical Education to reposition all the polytechnics to deliver on skills training. It's not enough you give a diploma. Give students a specific skill qualification. A training as a welder, as a POP, as a tiler, as a pipe fitter, scaffolder, or whatever. Let the student choose one skill and let him have certification on that skill. This is how to grow this area in this country and to meet the challenges. If the Mambila project comes on board, it will require 50,000 skilled workers. If care is not taken, 90% of them will come from China. And we should not allow that to happen. We have to start planning right away so that our polytechnics, our technical training colleges will start doing skills training. This is the way to go. So we hope the new government, let me say, will now accept to reposition technical and vocational education and allow it to address not only these skill gaps, but also to create employment for the tens of millions of Nigerian youth, many of them graduates, who are now being thrown into the labor market without any skill, of course, and therefore they can't fit into the skill gaps that we have in the country. Many countries are exporting labor. 3 months ago, I was in Bangladesh. 11.5 million young Bangladeshis are all over the world at the moment, providing services in the Middle East, in Europe, in different skill sets. Why can't Nigeria also do the same? using our own polytechnics and other TVET institutions in the country. So this is what we are trying to address with the new government, and I hope we will be able to achieve those objectives.
All right, Professor Bugagaji, thank you so much for that opening remark. And hearing that from you as the Secretary National Board for Technical Education, it makes me wonder what happened in the first place that this became an unpopular form of skill acquisition process or even educational training. I mean, back in the days, we used to hear so much about, I mean, I think I did something called Intro Tech in school and some vocational studies in school. And I heard some friends who wanted to go to what's it called, to technical colleges of education, technical colleges, as well as polytechnics. Yes, that's what I wanted to say, actually. But these days, I mean, it's something that you don't really hear much young people say. What happened? Why did this gap happen to the extent that we now have to go look outside the country to pick people for skills that can be gotten by people within the nation?
Well, if you go to the Federal Ministry of Education today, ask them to give you a technical and vocational education policy. There isn't any on ground. Yaba Tech was established in 1947. Kaduna Polytechnic in 1956. After that, what happened? Nothing. Our technical colleges are only 123 out of over 15,000 in the country, because there was no clear policy to drive the agenda. I mean, during the colonial days, you know, they had some little policy here and there to drive the colonial economy. After independence, everybody was crazing for university education. And the area of skills was neglected. You can't imagine that secondary school admissions, only less than 1% goes to technical colleges. And if you go to the technical colleges, they are a shadow of what they are supposed to be. Broken door or broken window syndrome, as they call it. You go, the gate is broken, you enter the workshops are dilapidated, the equipment are not operational, and so on and so forth. So there was no clear TVET policy in the country. And not only that, there was no focus to fund TVET. Go to European countries, Germany, for example, everybody is praising Germany for their dual system. 80% of their youth end up into skills and vocational training. Only 20% go to the universities. But today in Nigeria, we are focusing into universities education, over 200 universities at the moment. Polytechnics being converted into universities for no cost, except to produce paper qualified graduates who cannot fit into the economy. And we have refused to understand that. 2017, China converted 600 universities into polytechnics so that they can focus on skills training. We have been talking on this over the last 2 years. Unfortunately, we have not received the correct hearing, you know, from the policy makers and those who are driving the policies in this country. But I'm hoping that the new government coming will refocus on technical and vocational education and training so that Nigerian youth unemployment can be addressed. Let us start training young people. Come with your degree, come with your diploma, come and do skills qualification training. Get certification on particular skills so that we can feed the local demands, so that we can also export our labor across the world. United Kingdom requires 5,000 truck drivers, articulated vehicle drivers. Nigeria should be able to supply that. Why? Because we have so many of them around, but without certification. MBT has rolled out, national occupational standards in that area, and we are ready to do recognition of prior learning so that we can give certificates to those who are already on the ground. We can start exporting this to European countries, especially the UK. Germany requires 400,000 skilled workers every year for the next 5 years, post-COVID. Nigeria needs to, strategize so that we can supply, that skilled manpower to Germany. At the moment, the MBT has brought out a program, what we call the NYSE, Nigerian Youth Skills Empowerment Program. This program is meant to train diploma holders in particular skills in Europe. We have signed MOU with Denmark and Poland through a company called ERIC. And we are now going to take Nigerian ND holders in electrical engineering, take them to those two European countries, let them do skills training. Let them get European skills certification, and they can now be employed in industries across Europe. After some years, they can come back to Nigeria and add value to our own, industries here in Nigeria. So this is what we are trying to do, and we are hoping that with this, new government coming in, we should be able now to have a clear TVET policy, a policy that will allow young people to enroll into skills training ab initio. In Germany, they have dual system. 3 days of children, they spend it in school. 3 days in industry as apprentice. We don't need to copy what they are doing, but we need to re-strategize our own so that we can also fit with our environment. So this is what we are planning to do, and we are hoping that we shall have a turnaround so that the technical education sector would be given necessary attention, and polytechnics should stop. We should stop converting polytechnics into universities. Rather, we should do it in the reverse order. Some of those universities that are not performing, why don't we make them polytechnics? Bring the equipment, bring the facilities, let us do skills training so that young people in those areas can come and get skills qualification to allow them get jobs in different industries in the country. Oil and gas sector, they need welders. We are bringing welders from Indonesia and the Philippines. The Dangote refinery, which is going to be commissioned very soon, who will continue? Are we going to maintain those over 2,000 Indians to operate it while Nigerian youth are there roaming the streets without jobs? So there's need for us to re-strategize and to refocus our educational system. MBT is pursuing dual certification of students.
Yes. All right, Prof.
Get your national diploma, but get a particular certificate on skills.
We are having right now on technical education, the need for us to begin to improve skills, skills in technical fields. My colleague at the beginning of this conversation reminded us of a particular subject in secondary school, which was called Introduction to Introtech. Introduction to technology, and I don't even know if we still have such policies within the educational curriculum on that level. So, Prof, for you, I'm happy you talked about the fact that we should stop converting our polytechnics to university, but you and I understand that this is politics also at play here, where everything in Nigeria is being politicized at the detriment of a better economy, of a better people, and all of that. So, Prof, let's begin from the very beginning. How do you think we can begin to address all of this? Because also importantly is the interest of the Nigerian youths in acquiring most of these skills. Current reality has also shown that most Nigerian youths are a lot more interested in white-collar experiences and all of that. And you realize that a lot of people who don't want to settle for hands-on experiences. How do we begin to bridge this? How do we begin to create interest within the Nigerian youths for skills acquisition, technical skills acquisition, not forgetting the curriculum conversation within the universities and all of that? How do we begin the conversation to bridge all of this, Prof?
Yeah, I think we have to do a lot of reorientation because we have not understood the global trend. Globally, the economies around the world are being driven by skills. And if you don't invest in skills development, your economy will never grow, or else you'll be importing skilled labor from outside, as Nigeria is doing at the moment. For young people in secondary school, we need to reorient them. We need to reorient even the parents. A parent may not want his child to be a plumber or a welder, not knowing that a welder can earn 3 times what a professor of the university is earning. So there is need for reorientation of the entire Nigerian system, the youth, the parents, everybody, so that we can refocus our minds on what is viable, that is skills development. And we should stop this craze for paper qualification. Secondly, there is need for government to invest into this sector. When you have mentioned Introtech at junior secondary level, but Introtech is not delivered properly in this country. There are no workshops, no consumables to demonstrate those skills in the workshops where even they exist. And there are no, other, qualified manpower to deliver those courses. So that's why young people don't seem to be interested. The 6334, if properly implemented, could have really, created the right atmosphere for skills development in the country. But the investment in those areas is very minimal. And for that reason, secondary school students are not properly exposed to skills training, unlike what you find in other countries of the world. And in Germany, I've told you the statistics. 80% of the youth after secondary education, they continue with polytechnic and other skills training institutions. Only 20% go to universities because at secondary level, they are properly exposed. 3 days in classroom, 3 days in industry as apprentice. At the moment, Nigerian apprenticeship system is very poor, very informal. Go to the different, informal apprentice areas in Nigeria, Panteka in Kaduna, Apo village in Abuja, Araria market in Aba, Computer village in Lagos. How many of them are being integrated into our own educational system? All these are part of the skills training, gaps that we must address. So it's a big challenge. We need to bring out a very clear TVET policy for this country, and we need to invest money in its development. When academic staff unions were asking for 26% of our federal budget into education, it is to address these basic issues. And we always run away from it. We like to invest money in areas that, will not bring this kind of development. So there's need for refocusing. So that I hope the new government may refocus so that we'll be able to deliver more on TVET and encourage young people to enroll. Because at the moment, there are even opportunities for skilled Nigerians across the world. But we need to give them the appropriate training, give them the proper certification, recognized globally before they can be engaged. So I think this should be the way forward.
All right, Professor, thank you so much for that. But I must have to mention at this point, in the sense that in conversation with some young people, I've come to understand that so far, the government, the leaders in the political scene in governance have not really have given the opposite view to the younger generation on how to, earn, because they think either politics or getting a white-collar job is the fastest way to, to get your money. And the ease of doing business in Nigeria is not fantastic for some of this, for these young people. I know of, I think one of our editors here did mention of a woman in our area who actually sells soft drinks. She had to close her shop after a while. She said, there was no business, money wasn't coming in, she didn't have money to buy more. And there are several other businesses that have closed because the ease of doing business in Nigeria is not actually a fantastic one. So, how do we address that particular issue? I know you've mentioned policy. They've been telling us 1,001 times that we have fantastic and beautiful policies in Nigeria. Implementation is the problem. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Thank you very much. That is an area of great concern, especially for young people, the issue of this white collar and blue collar. But white collar and blue collar only exist in Nigeria. Go outside Nigeria, go to Europe, go to Asia. These are the issue of white and blue collar are over. This new century, there is what they call a new color, which is neither white nor blue. You have to acquire hands-on skills, whatever your paper qualification. And once you have the hands-on skills, you can move forward and develop yourself in your country. I will give you an example. There was a young man who finished secondary school, a classmate to my son. His father died just before he finished secondary school. So when he finished, he couldn't continue. He couldn't get to the university. He couldn't get to a polytechnic. What did he do? He took a part-time job in a business center. And there he was able to have access to the internet. And during his free time, he was able to develop skills, online learning. He was able to acquire certification on different ICT skills. As I'm talking to you now, that young man had left his small village in Zaria, had moved to Abuja. Recently, 2 years ago, he got a job in Dubai. He has moved all his other family members to Dubai, earning so much. And he has no degree, he has no diploma, but he has skills qualification in ICT. This should be what we should try to encourage Nigerian youth to go into. Let's acquire these skills. It is what pays. If you are a welder in Europe, you can earn 15,000 pounds in a month. A professor only has 5,000 pounds in a month. So we have to really realize the value of skills. We have to encourage young people to enroll into it. And we have to also give them the opportunities to come for training. And that's why we are asking for greater investments in skills training, so that the youth can be properly empowered and we can now banish all this issue of unemployment, poverty, etc. across the country.
Prof, let's look at these phenomenon that a few Nigerian youths are exposed to. The phenomenon of serve your master for 4 or 5 years, and then after which the master settles you and you begin your own business. So we have the roadsides mechanics and all of that. Do you think that is also a way to go in building technical skills in Nigeria? We have quite a number of them, even in plumbing. People just sit with someone for a few years, and in the next few days you are on the streets and you claim to be a plumber. Sit with a welder on the street, and in the next few days you claim to be a welder. And I mean, wouldn't you think that this is trying to build skills, trying to get skills in an unskilled manner?
You are very correct, moderator. What we have decided to do with the MBT to address this challenge is we are now trying to entrench the Nigerian Skills Qualification Framework. The Nigerian Skills Qualification Framework recognizes the informal sector. But what it does is the training being given in the informal sector, like the Apo market, if you go to the Apo village where they train people in automobile mechanics and so on, you know, what we are trying to do is let us do assessment of that training. So the master craftsmen will be trained as quality assurance assessors, so that the trainees serving under them, when they do the training, there are certain criteria of assessment. There are certain competencies for each trade, which those students must acquire, those trainees must acquire. And by the time they are able to pass that, they can now give them, there will be an awarding body from outside who will come and award them with a certificate. So at the moment, Kaduna Polytechnic is working with Panteka. Yaba Tech is working with Computer Village. We're trying to introduce formal training in the informal sector, so that the master craftsman will be guided properly. There will be what we call occupational standards. There will be competencies for every level. And they will now train those young people on those competencies. And an awarding body from outside, normally a professional body, will now come and assess and give them certificate for those qualifications. The advantage of that is we have about 9 levels in skills qualification. So if a trainee is assessed for level 3, he can now enroll and go for level 4. Gradually, he will even become a master craftsperson with trainees under him. So this is what we are trying to do. And not only that, we have asked every polytechnic in Nigeria to engage the informal sector in their environment. Wherever you are, look for the informal sector in your environment, engage them, start this NSQ training with those informal sectors, arrange for this awarding body to issue certificates, so that this way we can be able to issue certificates to those informal sector, and gradually we shall be able to formalize the informal, so that they can also contribute to the development of manpower. The advantage of this again is, by the time you give them certificates, they can move to industry. If there's a gas pipeline being established, some of those pipe fitters, some of those technicians from the informal sector, the welders, etc., with their certificates, they can get jobs. When you are setting up another refinery, some of these people from the informal sector with their certificates can get jobs. And this will allow opportunity for other trainees in that environment to join in. And the informal sector can now start contributing significantly to the development of the national economy.
All right, Professor. Let's talk a bit about CWES and how it has helped to, drive the spirit of technical skills and vocational education in Nigeria. I mean, I benefited from CWES, although I just did mine in the media sector, but I really gained a lot of skills while in school, working the job. Talk to us about CWES.
Well, CWES, Student Industrial Experience Scheme, was supposed to be housed by the Industrial Training Fund. MBT only coordinates polytechnics that undertake CWES. Universities also have their own arrangement. The unfortunate thing is the Industrial Training Fund has virtually abandoned CWES. When I did my CWES in the 1970s, I was paid monthly allowance. My supervisor from the institution was paid allowance to come and visit me and to ensure that I was doing the correct training. In fact, they visited us nothing less than twice during the 3 to 4 month training. Unfortunately now, CWES is just a shadow of itself. Students are abandoned. They may be posted by the institutions, but the ITF doesn't visit them. Their lecturers do not visit them. So it is left for the student to pick whatever skills that he can acquire. So this is what is unfortunately happening. And that's why we have called for a very long time that since ITF has abandoned its primary mandate, which is student industrial training, let us merge it with NDE and create the Nigerian Skills Fund, who should not be doing training. Today, ITF is doing training throughout the country. They have become a training center instead of facilitating student industrial training. So we better merge them together, create the Nigerian Skills Fund, who will now focus on CWES, as well as establishment of skills training centers across the country under different institutions so that they can be providing the funding. Just like TED Fund is funding tertiary education, let the Nigerian Skills Fund also fund skills training across the country and also fund, the student industrial training so that our students will get exposure, during their national diploma or degree programs.
Prof, in the heart of this conversation is, one, creating the right orientation, two, creating the right skills, and also looking at the education curriculum as a key to creating interest in technical skills acquisition. Prof, are there other highlights you want to give us? Quick highlights before we run off the studio on this segment. Quick highlights to getting this whole thing well aligned.
Well, the other points I didn't mention is the curriculum itself. A lot of the curricula in the polytechnics today are over 20 years old. We are supposed to be reviewing them every 5 years. In this year 2023 budget, we got only 50 million to do curriculum review, and we have over 200 to review. And 50 million cannot do more than 2 curricula review, which means it will take us 100 years if we continue this way to review our curriculum. So that is the one area which government must come in. I had written to TED Fund to come and assist us do curriculum review. They have done for universities. They have spent over ₦1 billion to review university curriculum, which was launched early this year. But polytechnics, they have ignored us for so long, and it is to the detriment of the nation. We are getting inadequate funding to review curricula, and unfortunately also those who should be given us support for the review of the curricula are not doing it. So for that reason, we have to continue, suffering due to poor curricula. Curricula is a very dynamic system. You can't allow curriculum beyond 5 years. In ICT, you must review a curriculum every 2 years. But unfortunately, the funding is not there for review of curricula. MBT is not only reviewing polytechnic curriculum and monotechnic curriculum. We are also doing curriculum for technical colleges. We supply NAPTEP, the curriculum, and they drive out syllabus out of them. Unfortunately, there is no proper funding. That's why I say there must be a refocus on technical and vocational education so that we will be able to get proper funding to carry out review of our curricula. This way we may be able to meet to the current challenges. The current crops of graduates that we are producing are not fit to industry, and that's why they are not getting jobs. They are being trained with archaic curriculum, and we have done our best within our limited resources to review the little that we can do. But the little we have done is not enough. There is need for TED Fund and other agencies of the government to come to the rescue of technical education so that we can have an up-to-date curriculum that could stand the test of time.
All right, that's so much that we can take on this conversation. Thank you so much for giving us your perspective. Professor Idris Bugaji, Executive Secretary, National Board for Technical Education. Thank you also for joining us on News Up this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, the conversation continues after this break. Stay with us.